When your mix is ready for mastering, it's important that you work with somebody in a collaborative effort, someone who's been there and sat side by side with the artists and understands where you're coming from and understands your needs. I've done production, I've done mixing, I've sat with numerous artists over the years. In fact, I want to cover some of that for you because it's important into how I just came up with my approach to mastering and how I learned to listen, not only to the clients, but also to the music and the way that they listen to music. For many years, for the past 15 years, I've worked in the audio industry and sold, represented products, marketed products, and sat with tons and tons of artists in their studios. Guys like Michael Brower, Greg Wells, Brian Viberts, Mick Gazowski, the list goes on and on and on. I've sat with so many of these guys, Andrew Sheps, Vance Powell, Rich Costi. Some of them became customers, some of them didn't. But from all of them, I learned how they listen. First of all, I sat in their rooms, understood the different acoustics that people mix in, and understood that if you have a decent room, your ears can adjust to that room and you can do amazing work. Some of these engineers, like Brian Viberts, works in studios that are all over the place, yet he has a very consistent outcome to his work. So he adapts to those rooms. He'll go in a lot of times on big projects. A lot of the big names, they have the convenience of doing this usually. They'll go in for a day, get accustomed to the room, sometimes longer, get accustomed just listening to things in the room so that they can then adjust to that room and work in that environment, and also the speakers and the converters that are in that room. So this was just a really interesting and lesson learning experience for me over many years in a lot of the top studios in the world. Why mastering? Why is mastering so important? Guys like Doug Sachs really invented the independent mastering engineer. He started to record. He recorded a vinyl record straight to disc, called direct to disc. And they recorded some stuff in his studio, and he brought it around the studios and the record labels, and they started coming to him for their mastering because he proved to them how important that step is, why that final step can make such a difference. So that was born with guys like him and Bob Ludwig and Bernie Grumman. So was born the modern day, what we know as the mastering engineer. But today it's different. Today, as I said, we're all listening on similar devices, and to get the most out of those converters and to get the maximum experience when we turn up our laptop on Macs to hear that track, it's very important that it be loud but also warm and clear. You don't want to turn it all the way up and start hearing distortion. This is something that's all common to us. We've all put on a YouTube video, turned it all the way up, and for one reason or another, it was encoded or mastered in a way that shakes your speakers. Your whole computer goes when you turn it up, so you have to turn it back down. The experience that you want is to turn it all the way up and still be clear and still be warm. And that's the essence of what I'm talking about, loud and clear. And the way that I do it, and if again, flashing back to the old days, you had all of these steps in the process. You recorded to tape, you went through a console, you went to a master tape, you went to the disc, you recorded to the lathe was pressed, the vinyl was an analog medium delivered to the customer. So there was no digitization. There were all these analog steps, and every single one of these steps combined to create that listening experience. And it was vetted over a long period of time, from the first vinyl records to the last or today's vinyl records, to where there's a process and it sounds good and people like the sound. So it's sort of vetted and proven to work. And what these are, each one of these analog processes brought some distortion to the party, okay? When I say distortion, let's think of it in terms of good distortion, bad distortion. Good distortion meaning the sound, the distortion, the saturation of the tape, the things that we like. And again, this was refined. The tape formulas and the tape machines and the noise reduction approaches, the electronics of the noise reduction was all refined over years until we all kind of agreed for the most part, hey, I like this tape, I like this tape machine, I like this approach. And that became sort of the winner, if you will, of the good distortion that we like, whether it's tubes, transformers, mixing consoles, EQs, compressors, every one of them in the analog world adds some distortion, and we hope good distortion. Sometimes you want to modulate a guitar and get some ugly or bad or gnarly distortion, and that's another kind of manipulation of analog distortion that can be good in some cases and sound bad in others. So today, we're all delivering in a digital medium. So mastering, as I said, is almost more important because it's that final step of deciding, getting things from a low level to a loud level in a gain staged way by combining several good distortions that we like: tube, transformers, solid state, EQ, compression, whatever the case may be, combining these in such a way that combine to get the maximum outcome so that the sound is warm and clear and maintains punchiness, gives you the right imaging, the width of the track, the height of the track, and of course the loudness is important, the warmth is important, the spatial presentation, which what I call is the framing of the track. So your mix is the picture, I put the frame on it. All of this is very, very critically important to a great listening experience. When you go into my website and check out my tracks, they've all been done at different times a year, but even the first one, which would be Surf Matiska Jaren, you listen to that track, it sounds very similar to the stuff I'm doing today because those principles and approaches born out of listening to so much vinyl when I was growing up, stuff that was recorded on tape. The essence of my mastering has always remained the same, whether it's a Taco Bell commercial, a Fiat commercial with the Glitch Mob that I did, all that stuff is on my website. You're going to hear a common theme, a bond of the sound where it's pretty loud, it's clear, you can hear everything, it's warm, it's listenable, it's a pleasurable listen. Yes, it's going to be delivered through a streaming service or iTunes or digital medium of some kind. And yes, all of the things I said are true. We have a, sort of this democratization of listening devices where most of us listening on similar things. But that mastering can sort of tip the scale so that experience is better in the end. And in essence, that's what we're talking about. So when you want to submit a mix to me, you can do it by, first of all, preparing the song. I prefer 24 bits. Doesn't matter if it's 44.1, 48, 96, 192, whatever you feel fits for the music. A lot of people tend to like the higher sampling rates for things like classical or jazz, acoustic productions. Those types of things tend to really excel. I mentioned Brian Vibberts a couple times. He works with Chick Corea. He's won multiple Grammys for Chick. He likes to work at 96K on all of his projects, but especially important for things that are a lot of piano and orchestrations, jazz, those kinds of things. They really excel at the higher rates. Rock, pop, R&B, 44.1 is plenty good enough. So that's kind of the story in the rates. 24-bit is definitely preferred when sending it in for mastering because you're going to have the most dynamic range with 24-bit and we've got room to work with. So along the dynamic range part of the discussion, it's important to also keep in mind that when you send the file, and yes, it's true that the dynamic range is managed with floating point math inside the DAW, if you've heard of this, as opposed to fixed point math. And that means that you're going to get your 24 bits whether you turn it down or you turn it up. But when you have a project with lots of tracks and lots of plugins, it is important to maintain a good level, not too loud, not too low. And this includes when you feed your individual plugins audio. So I'll put some pictures up here of one that's too low and one that is too loud and one that's just about right. And keep this in mind for not only your final mix that you're delivering, but as you're going, because what happens is all those plugins that you're using, they're tested and modeled and optimized to work best in a certain loudness range. If you feed them too loud, they're going to distort. If you feed them too low, you're not going to get the same character that you're looking for. Certainly you want to experiment because sometimes you want to turn up, turn down the audio. I'm talking about the individual tracks that you mix. You want to feed those plugins a different gain staging, a different level to get kind of a different result or a different sound. And again, this came from all those years I talked about sitting with all those engineers in their room and watching them work. You can send me tracks over WeTransfer. You can send them Google Drive. You can send them Dropbox. I get them in all forms. Some people just email. the actual track. And it works in all those ways. Pretty easy to do. You can go to the contact section of my site. You can fill that out. You can send a link to me. We don't even need to be, working together yet, because I offer free samples. So, oh, by the way, there's a chat window in the lower right. So if you click that chat link, you can even send a link to me over the chat window as well. For make sure I'm there so I get it. But the contact window, also my email address is listed on the contact page. So you can send it to me anyway, and just send me the track. If you're ready to go and you want to see how the mastering is going to work for you, just go ahead and send the track over, because I offer free samples. And usually those are pretty quick turnarounds. I try to get those back to you because I know people want instant gratification. They want confirmation of what they're getting. So I'll send you half the song or a third of the song, depending on the song. If there's a starting point you want me to start, give you a minute and a half of the song. This helps not only you, but it helps us get locked in. So you get an idea of exactly what you're getting before you pay anything, before you agree to anything. And also it begins that collaborative process of me learning your music, you learning what my mastering is going to do. And it gets us one step ahead, because I noticed that a lot of mix engineers will send me a song, I'll master it, and then they'll go and do some recall of their own mix and adjust some things. Because remember, that clear and loud thing will expose your mix in a way that might inform you of really how it's going to be sounding to the public. And then you may want to go back and say, oh, I want to tweak this, or I heard something on the guitar, or the vocal, the kick drum that I want to adjust on my end. I want to turn something up, turn something down, a clap, a snare, up or down. You get the idea. So the sample helps both of us. It's not just me giving you the free sample so you know what the mastering sound like. That way I'm not working on an entire song, refining it before I get your feedback. And that's what I mean by the collaborative process. The mastering, in my view, should be an absolute collaboration. So I really appreciate your time. Send your tracks over. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, or join me on like me on Facebook, follow the channel that this is posted on, so I'll keep you abreast of different artists that I'm working with. The next video I'm gonna do is gonna have A/B comparison, so people can hear some examples, just examples, no more blah blah talking over the video on the next video, so that you can get a good idea. And of course, all of these will be cataloged in my video section on the site. I look forward to mastering your music, and thanks a lot for watching.